Boss by Bossman, right?
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Dr. Regina Bradley, and this is OutKasted Conversations, Season 2, Episode 6. And I got two of my faves, my absolute faves, Tyler Moore and Sheldon McCarthy, who are students at Kennesaw State University. Tyler is an English major, and Sheldon is an integrative studies major. What's going on? How y'all doing?
I'm good. Glad to be here.
Okay, I'm glad for y'all to be here, too. So, you gotta, I think y'all legal enough to get into the club, but all of the question to get into the club, how did y'all become outcasted?
I got outcasted when I still can't find the age at this moment, but I know I was younger, and my older sister, Colette, I used to be with her a lot, and she played OutKast a lot. She was really into hip hop, specifically Aquemini, and
good woman.
Pretty much, yeah.
Bet, Tyler?
Basically, I was like 10 or 11 when I first moved here, and when we got cable, I was more so into watching VH1 Soul and MTV Jams. And at the time, I didn't know that the songs I had listened to were OutKast, so that's basically how I learned it.
Awesome. So I've had y'all for like a couple of classes now, but you also took the OutKast class that I gave at Kennesaw State. So, what were your experiences in the class? You can just kind of say what you want now. So,
Man, look, that class, the best class I ever took in college, really my whole life. You know what I'm saying? Especially, we all had a bonding moment, like I think the second class when you played some Young G's.
That was the first day.
That was the first day. The first day we had a bonding moment. Everybody, we just came together for Trap or Die. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we had like a trap karaoke moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, Tyler, what about you?
I mean, the class was best class, honestly, at KSU. And
You heard that, Kennesaw State, the bestest. Yes.
I think it was more so, for us, it was more so important because we're producers.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. So you both are producers, really dope producers, by the way, from what I've heard. I think, Shelly, you just did your first solo produced album with your good friend Jay Newton, who also took the OutKast class. And Tyler, you're in the works of starting to think about working on your first one, I think.
I do have an instrumental album out
Nice.
that I just put out. That was in September.
Okay.
And we're working on a group album.
Great. So could you tell me a little bit about, what you think your sound is?
All right, so I do feel like my sound fits into the aesthetic of like the South, which is really like car music, or the old aesthetic of the South, which is like music for your cars. But I know I get a lot of influence from like different places though. Like I don't just have like a Southern sound. I pull from like the sound of jazz, gospel. You know what I'm saying? My background is Caribbean, so I pull
you're
like
Jamaican.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Big up Jamaica, no matter that. So I pull in a lot of different things, but it's like a very elite Southern sound, I would say.
Tyler, what about you? How would you describe your sound?
I would say the same thing, but more so, I think what I've been creating now is more so towards trap, but I think that it's much more different than trap because I'm using different sounds. I'm not going to the direct, normal sounds of trap, where it's like piano or organ or anything.
Okay.
I'm trying to move towards a synthetic sound.
Nice. Yeah. So Tyler, you said that the OutKast class was particularly useful because you guys are producers. So could you kind of talk about how you think about OutKast, not necessarily just as artists, but I mean like as producers, is there something about their sound that you're like, oh, this is useful, or oh, this makes me want to mimic it, or something like that?
I think it's mainly like creativity wise. I think for OutKast it's more so they were doing things that you weren't normally hearing, especially once you get to Aquemini. That was like a whole different era. And I think they started more so the era of trying to change things in the sense of like Andre singing. And then next thing you know, more people are starting to sing more and rap and lyricism and all that. I think that's more so the whole entire idea of OutKast and their sound and how it changes how rappers want to do things.
Great. Shelly?
I know it myself. Okay, just restate the question one more time to make sure.
Yeah, no. So the question is, how do you see yourself in conversation with OutKast? Is there things that you pull away from them that you're like, as a producer especially?
Right. I feel like growing up listening to OutKast a lot, it just influenced me as a producer and just completely. And I feel like my path as a producer also aligns very well with how OutKast grew. Even looking back to Southern Playalistic. You know what I'm saying? Like that's when they were just like, you know what I'm saying? We from the South, we can make this Southern sound. I feel like that's how I started making music too. I'm from the South, I can make trap beats. Cause I started making beats a while back, but it's like the older I got, the more I started to realize like that's cool, but I want to get outside of this. But I don't want to stray too far. So you know what I'm saying? Like as they progressed in their career, they started to pull in different influence. And I feel like I did the same thing. And they influenced me a lot, just even down to like the breakdown of the sounds they were using when they started to quantize their sounds. The more they started to grow, the further they got. I feel like I'm doing the same thing. And I try not to like align myself with them, but I feel like it happens like seamlessly.
Yeah. So, okay, so you're not just from like the American South, you're from, you know, the global South. So you still got your people in them, still in Jamaica, and you like, you know, my dad just got back, right? Like you keep going back and forth. So, you know, when folks talk about the global South, right, and the influence of the global South, especially in Southern hip hop, you know, you have like the influences of reggaeton, of, you know, all of these things. So can you not talk about how, you know, your Jamaican roots influence and how you can think of that as like Southern or not?
Yeah, like I feel like when it comes to like those type of pulls that I use, when it comes to like my music, I feel like I draw towards, they're not always having to be a specific downbeat or like playing into the emotional feel of music. Sometimes like, and this actually quite aligns with like a lot of Southern music from back in the day. The bass line can carry the entire song. Like when I just think about how Bob Marley sometimes would just play the bass, not the guitar. He would just play the bass and sing. So it's like a bass line can really carry a song. And I'm really big on bass lines too. But just a different influence, like how sometimes I'll have Jay, even though he's like more of a rapper, I'll have him sing, though it's not like it's not his forte. You know what I'm saying? I'll have him sing over a bass line, and that'll just like hold out the like background of the entire song.
That's great. So Tyler, where were you before you came here?
I was born in Louisiana.
Okay.
I lived in Texas till I was 9. Went back to Louisiana and moved to Georgia. What's funny is I was supposed to grow up in Georgia originally, but we went to Texas. So that's mainly my background of everything.
So you're still Southern. You're just like
Everywhere.
Southern, all
South.
Southern, everything. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, like, so it'd be the same question as a producer, since you've had like exposure to these different Southern sounds, even different Southern hip hops, right? Because there's more than one. Does that influence your work at all, or your ear for music?
I say more so like the Texas sound and Memphis sound is more so influencing for me, and also Louisiana. But I think the more that I lived in Texas, it was more, you know, with DJ Screw and everything, it's like you have a different ear for how you listen to things because of what he was doing, because he chopped and screwed everything. And I think with Memphis, like, I think mainly in that time period, because it was like 06 when I moved back, and like 3 6 Mafia was like the biggest thing at that time. Like Stay Fly was like the biggest record. So I think listening to what DJ Paul was doing was mainly like a big inspiration, especially when it comes down to like when we talk about trap music. I think DJ Paul created that sound initially, but I think that for me, it's rooted in different places other than just like here in Atlanta, instead of just being like, oh, I'm from here in Atlanta and that's all I do. And it's all centered just around Atlanta. Instead, I'm going from Texas and what I learned there in Louisiana and kind of meshing that idea.
I love it. So, you know, since we bring it up trap.
Oh man, yes.
Shelly.
Okay, all right, okay, what's up?
You know, Shelly, you are very particular.
Yeah.
That's how I'm gonna say it. You're very particular about how you think about what trap is and what trap ain't.
Right.
No, I mean, like, you know, but as a producer, I can see why, right? Because it's like you're listening for particular things, and usually when we have conversations about trap, folks automatically want to go to like, you know, recent. But one of the things I really appreciate, especially with you two, is that it's like, nope, I know the history behind it. So, you know, what do you think trap means now compared to back, you know, like you were talking about 2006? Like, what do you think shifted in how we understand what trap music and the trap sound is and what it's not?
I feel like trap. Okay, so you're saying like how it shifted?
Yeah.
I feel like trap shifted when it became, you know what I'm saying, more marketable. You know,
It's Katy Perry's fault.
Oh man, oh man. Nah, I'm not throwing the blame on him, but you know what I'm saying. We could take it back to T.I. You know what I'm saying. He basically made it more marketable.
Okay.
He was able to get trap to the radio. He definitely elevated it to the radio. Not the father of trap. I'm never gonna give him that, but he definitely made it more marketable. And so from there, it became like a more radio played thing.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
And so when it became a radio play thing, you know, a lot of people start to pick up on it, and it's a typical Southern sound, and I feel like people started to gravitate towards it, which made it more like accessible. And then producers started saying, well, I can make this quick. Then artists started saying, well, I could just talk about this. And that's how you get the new form of trap, which isn't really trap no more. It's just, you know, folks talking about what they have instead of what they do.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also the other opposite is, you know, folks who use and don't necessarily sell.
We can
I mean,
go
but that's a
forever
whole
on that.
right. That's a whole. It's a thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
thing.
It's
But no,
definitely
I
a
think
thing.
I think that's really important. Is that especially as folks in the industry to recognize that there's been the shift, that there has been like an evolution, if you will, to the point where, you know, when I was first introduced to trap, it was because it was like centered in Atlanta and Memphis.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like, you know, so when I heard Fetty Wap's Trap Queen,
Oh man, don't
I was like, hold the hell on. He is in New Jersey. This don't sound right. And I'm just, so I think, you know, I guess, Tyler, if you want to speak to that at all, because, you know.
I mean, if there's a shift, I don't think it's more so a shift. I think it's more so a redirection in a sort of way. Because it's like, I think people like to say, oh, it used to be like the drug dealers and now it's like the drug users. But then again, it's like 3 6 Mafia was talking about drug using too. And so was UGK. They were talking about that too. But I think now it's more so they look at it and say like, we're not, I don't think that fully Atlanta fully takes it in. I think it's just a couple of us. And then we have like ASAP World.
Oh, okay.
They're like,
That's
they're
crazy.
all
It's
in.
a world. It used to be the
Yeah.
mob, but now it's like.
Yeah, and
Okay.
their whole entire
Okay.
thing, like, I don't know if you watch like the OG DVDs, like they're in Texas with Lil Flip and all of them doing freestyles. And it's like, y'all not from here, but that's their whole entire style. That's their whole epidemic. Like A$AP Ferg's first album was Trap Lord.
Yeah.
Right.
So
right.
I think now it's sort of like people are trying to distinguish themselves in that conversation. And I think a lot of us in the South feel like they shouldn't add themselves because it's like, you're not from that. That's not what y'all used to do. Like, you from Baltimore. You used to be on the corner. Like, you weren't in trap houses.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it's more so that.
And it's like, I'm not even, I know when I speak on it sometimes, I come off like, nah, man, it's a Southern thing, leave us alone. Nah, man, it's real trap house stuff, man, it's from the hood. If you from the burbs, leave us alone. Nah, but that's not what I'm saying. It's one of those things where it's like, I grew up listening to it in a specific way.
Right,
But it's been, and it has shifted or been redirectionalized. But what I will say, though, is I kind of like it some because it's like, you know what I'm saying, the South finally got its outreach. You know what I'm saying? Now, people up north on the West Coast, wherever you are, it's like, dang, can I get a good 808 song? Like a good song that got some nice 808s that hit. Of course, they still, you know, focus mainly on like their main sound. Like the North is always gonna own boom bap to me. Like no matter what anybody says. And I feel like the South is always gonna own like the 808 just hitting sound. But I like how it's had it spread though, because even thinking about back how we talked about what award show was it? That OutKast was at.
Source Awards.
Source Awards. The South, you know, like the South got something to say, and it's like it's cool. We just gonna go on back down to the South side because y'all don't appreciate us. But now we finally got our appreciation, whether folks want to say it or not, and the South has finally had its like outspring.
All right, so let's talk about it. So when I was coming up in the late 90s and early 2000s, it was almost mandatory to be like, nah, I'm Southern.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't seem like it's as urgent to like claim being from the South because as you guys pointed out, like the Southern sound, the Southern experience has traveled like everywhere, international even, right? So as folks who are in the industry right now, how do you see Atlanta? How do you see Atlanta as a production capital, as a music capital? Do you think it still holds the same weight as it did back in the 90s and early 2000s when folks were still like, yeah, we're not quite sure if we want to, acknowledge
Yeah.
how beneficial it is to be, around the sound in the South?
I feel like now a lot of people I feel like people have more pride in being from the South now than what they did back then. But I also feel like there's some people that feel like it's oversaturated here. Like the sound is just too much. Like you can find a trap song, a producer that can do trap anywhere. So some folks like it's too oversaturated. I personally take pride in it, you know what I'm saying? It's like I'm from the South, but that's because I keep in mind what it used to be. You know what I'm saying? Like I remember when folks didn't really mess with the South or the sound that the South has. The crazy thing that I find out like often though is people still kind of look down on the South. Like they still be like, oh, y'all don't be talking about nothing. Y'all just do that. Whoa, yeah, stuff like we don't really be on nothing. But I mean, yeah. But I mean, I feel like you get a lot more credit being from the South now because people will hear that you're from Atlanta, and then they'll be like, oh man, y'all got all the people down there. Y'all got Migos, Future, Thug, this person, that person. So we definitely get a lot more credit, but with credit comes like discredit as well.
Right.
And people do discredit us for a lot. Like damn near messing up the sound of hip hop. Some folks throw it on Soulja Boy. I don't think he did that bad of a job. But I mean, he definitely took.
I mean, he's made his money.
He made his bread like
using MySpace. Let's for the record.
Yep.
I mean, folks don't want to give him that kind of credit. They just want to kind of keep him in love and hip hop Hollywood. But I'm like, no, that was a business move. That was a serious business move. That you already had these millions of streams, and that's still like a thing, right? And this is like 2008. You have these millions of streams on fucking MySpace.
Yeah.
And that gives him a deal with DJ Smurf, Mr. College Park. And that kind of introduces the whole digitization, if you will.
Yeah.
So the South was first.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of folks don't pay homage to the South, but I feel like the South deserves more credit and respect. Though we are oversaturated as hell. Whew, I still think we deserve some, homage and respect because the South is always going to be the South.
I respect that. Tyler, you got anything you want to add to it?
I think now so people want to be a part of what we're doing in the South now to a point that it's like, it becomes oversaturated because they're trying to include themselves. And now it's just like, I don't think there's a way to say like we don't have anybody because we have Crit, we have Isaiah Rashad, we have so many people. And it's like, the thing with us is we're willing to rep where we're from and where, like I mentioned, ASAP Mob and all of them and Uzi is like, y'all coming here for our sound. And I feel personally like to say like the South doesn't have anything or for rap music, it's like, or to say like Southern rap is dead or whatever, it doesn't make any sense because we're running the charts. And our whole entire sound of hip hop is basically based on us. And everybody's coming to us for what they feel is like the next hit. So to say that we're not as calculated or like in New York or the West or whatever, it doesn't make any sense because if we're the ones running this sound right now for hip hop and hip hop is the number one genre, why are we getting the back burner of that? Why are we getting told that we're not credible?
Well, clearly we have receipts.
Yeah.
Rolls of receipts.
Whenever Future drops, it's a freaking event, like everywhere. When Lil Baby Young Gunna dropped that shit, it was everywhere. It was like every blog was posting it. It didn't matter. But the moment like Joey Badass dropped stuff, and I like Joey Badass, or Flatbush, it was like y'all didn't really support them like that. And now you're mad at us because we're getting the most exposure.
Well, Tyler, I have a question for you. As a woman who's producing, do you see any challenges to that? Because usually when you think about Southern hip hop, particularly on the production side, you automatically think, menfolk, right? And that's not necessarily the case, but I'm just kind of curious to hear your thoughts about, as a woman producer, have you seen any challenges or, have folks come at you crazy?
Not. I don't think the people that I work with, they've never done anything. They just know that I do what I do. But I can see where that comes off as like they probably won't take you seriously. But then again, it's like I let the music speak for it. Like you don't have to question me about anything. I'm going to do what I have to do. And I think that in hip hop period, being a woman is completely difficult, especially in this climate with everything like it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to have some type of beef with somebody else. And it's like I don't find it difficult to maneuver in the space when I'm not trying to move in that certain area. But then again, it's like you hear the stories and then you're just like, you kind of get turned off about it and you're like, I don't think I want to be a part of that. But then again, I think the main like inspiration for me to keep going was Wonder Girl and Magna Carta Holy Grail. Because I was a senior in high school when that dropped. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, that can happen. I think it's more so if we see more of us, it will be much easier for us to like go out there and do that.
Bet, I can respect that. So final question, what are y'all working on? What's next? How can folks reach out for you, you know, get that business, get that work?
Oh,
Yeah,
first?
come on, Shelly.
Oh man, all right. So
Boss man.
yeah. What I'm working on right now is a couple different projects because I engineer too, so that's always like a thing too. Like, so I do both sides. I do the recording aspect and also the production. What I got working on right now is me and Jay Newton are working on our next project. The 4for4 project that we just put out was just like a little, you know what I'm saying? All right, here y'all go. It's nothing real big. It's
Like
just
an appetizer.
literally, you know what I'm saying? Like a 4for4. It's just on the snack. Well, not the snack, but just on the eat real quick. But we're working on a project right now that we hope to release 2019. I'm working on a project with Akil Shaw that we're putting out soon. He is a R&B singer. Got to make sure I say it right because you know what I'm
Getting
saying.
his feelings.
It's not even him. It's just some folks misunderstand it. But yeah, and I've just been working on a lot of different projects for like different folks. You know, whether it's producing or engineering. But those are the main two that I'm focused on right now.
How can I get in touch with you?
Definitely social media is the best way, and that is my IG or my Twitter, and it's at BossmanRight.
Okay.
Everything spelled normal.
And then, you know, on top of that, graduating.
Woo,
Spring
man,
2019.
let's go. Spring 2019.
You know, you couldn't do it because your mama watch it. So, you know, talking about graduating, your mama going to come for you.
Yeah, I'm definitely graduating in May.
Congratulations.
May 8th, thank you so much. May 8th, Wednesday, 2 p.m. All right, okay, I'm walking across the stage. Y'all gonna know it's me. I promise y'all won't miss it.
You going to come out with the Jamaican flag
Oh
and everything?
man, it's all, yes. Sir, you cannot walk across the stage with what? The flag gonna be on me, okay?
I'm here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look, I'm here. I'm finna get my degree. I'm out.
I love it. Tyler, what you got going on? How can folks get in touch with you?
Well, I'm just working on the group project right now, and that should be released. We discussed it yesterday. We said the 5th of January.
My birthday? It's going to be my birthday gift?
Oh, it's your birthday?
January 5th is my birthday.
Yeah. We wanted to do it first. So that's the main thing we are working on, and then promo for all that and stuff. And social media is at IMPT97.
Okay. Bet. Well, thank you so much, guys, for coming and share the brilliance.
Thank you for having this.
You know, all that. I'm just so proud of y'all. Like, I don't even know what just so proud of, you know, what y'all are doing and everything. Again, thank you so much. I'm Dr. Regina Bradley. These are my dope ass students, and this is OutKasted Conversations. We'll see y'all next time. Y'all be easy.